Oh, you have to hold it. Just make sure your fingers are together.
Under Arthur's leadership, MassResistance chapters have opened in Ohio, Texas, New York, Canada. They need it badly there. Hong Kong and elsewhere. Since 2004, Arthur has been a committed pro-family activist fighting the LGBTQ agenda and the lies it's based upon. With his help and working with an incredible group of activists around the United States and the world, MassResistance has shut down Drag Queen Story Hour. In libraries, mostly. Removed perverted sex ed programs within public schools that are inappropriate, and stopped bad legislation like bans on life-saving reparative therapy. Before his work with MassResistance, Arthur was a freelance writer and activist fighting for a number of issues, including the pro-family fight to stop the spread of the LGBT agenda in the United States and around the world. Born, raised, and still living in Torrance, Arthur is committed to protecting faith, family, and freedom in all respects. He's also been, for 2 years in a row, our Torrance, Lomita, Palos, Verdes Republican Assembly Activist of the Year for 2 years in a row. Only started 2 years ago, so he's got a good track record already. Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Schaper.
All right, can I start?
Yes.
This is great.
What would you like to do?
I'm really glad to be here this afternoon. I have been able to really hit the road with what MassResistance has been doing. We have, yes, not only national, but we have international status. I already had a number of slides, so I couldn't put in as much as I wanted to. We are helping a Canadian father who was jailed for a month simply because he didn't want his daughter being transitioned into a boy, which was done without his knowledge or permission. And when he went to court to stop it, the court told him that he had to go along with it. And he had to be quiet about it, a total gag order. And he said, I'm not going to sit back and let the state abuse my daughter. He went public for a year. He was found in breach of the conduct order, went to jail, but he's now being released on appeal. He has a great attorney, and he trusted us to violate the court's publication ban. So I like to say I'm an international criminal now, and I'm proud of it. Shame on the government of Canada, shame on the British Columbian government particularly. So we stood our ground. Thank you so much, Scott, for helping me with the presentation. I cannot thank you enough. This is us, MassResistance. We are international. I'm the organization director. I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you for being here. Go ahead and go to the next slide, or I'll just click. A little bit about the history of MassResistance. So this is not my brainchild. People love to say your organization. Nope, it was Brian Kamaker. Born in Minnesota, raised in Florida, now lives in Massachusetts. Talk about travel. This organization has been active since 1993, and then it was incorporated in 1995 as the Parents' Rights Coalition. We are based in Waltham, Massachusetts. Now, California is bad. Massachusetts is far worse. They have 6-colored rainbow, they're not really rainbow, flags everywhere. I mean, it is shoved on everybody. Even Republicans have completely sold out. The political parties are completely a mess. There is a complete degradation of the family there. We've been opposing the LGBT agenda fully, fighting for natural marriage, parental rights, biological truth. Yes, we have chapters everywhere and in other countries. Just to let you know, we've had people in South Africa reach out to us, people in we talked to Singapore, people have connected with us. We have to be a little careful about that. They don't like foreign influence there. That's understandable. We just provide resources. We have people in the United Kingdom, people in France. We have people in Poland as well. Even in Kyrgyzstan, a little country in Central Asia, we have a massive pro-family activist who has been sharing our information, translating it into Russian. So the Russian government does a much better job of protecting the family. I mean, I may not want Putin for other reasons, but they at least respect the family there. So you have to give them credit. Go ahead to the next one. So this is something I wanted to make sure I share with everybody. Brian Kamaker, his kids come home from the schools in Newton. They're showing him all kinds of filth. The perverse comprehensive sex ed that we see now, that was going on 15 years prior in Massachusetts. That's how bad it is there. And he raised his voice and said, I'm not going to allow this filth to be pushed on my kids. He fought back. He coalesced with a lot of parents and led the fight. It wasn't something he was initially expecting to do. He works in the computer industry and does other things. And he's, at the time, And the vitriol he got back, just because he didn't want this filth pushed on the kids, the LGBT lobbyists and militants were vicious. And he was just shocked at how the vitriol the blowback he got, just wanting to protect children in the classroom. I mean, it was shocking to him. And that actually doubled down his resolve. And so he with the parents, they were in 1996, they were able to get a parents' rights sex ed opt-out bill passed. Massachusetts then was a supermajority Democrat state. There was a rhino governor. Nobody wanted to touch this bill, but parents' rights, mass resistance, they were able to push it through and they won. This was a massive victory. Just think about this. There wasn't even an opt-out for the sex ed. Every kid was expected to learn all of the sexual perversion, and parents had no right to take their kids out. They changed that in Massachusetts. Here we go, another big victory. This was in the year 2000, Fistgate. Mitt Romney eventually got implicated in this later on. So you had GLSEN, this is the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. They would be going into the schools, into the middle schools, and they were teaching kids all kinds of perverse sexual acts. Fisting, anal rimming, all these things. And there was one of the activists with our organization who just happened to be there, turned on their tape recorder, there weren't smartphones at the time, this is 2000, and recorded everything. Now, Massachusetts is unique, sadly, like California, it is a two-party consent state. If you want to record, everybody has to be on board. That's why you don't see Project Veritas doing a lot of stuff in California or Massachusetts right now. They're changing it in Massachusetts as we speak. But Brian said, I don't care, the whole country needs to hear about what these perverted people are trying to push on our kids. He had to get 3 different sets of lawyers. The first two quit on him. They didn't want to represent him. They didn't do what he asked. He released the tapes anyway. And he won that fight. It was a scandal across the state. It just doubled down on their fight against this perversion. Go ahead, next slide. So there we go. Now, what have we been able to do recently? All the slides you see here, or these pictures, are from our main website, www.massresistance.org. So I was hired in July of 2018. I did a couple of small activism efforts. I went up to the city of Dixon to help out the city council member up there who was being harassed by LGBT bigots because he happened to write an article and said, why do we have to have gay pride parade? Can't we have straight pride? Or why do we have a bunch of men prancing around like fairies? Literally, they dress like fairies, you know, in parades. And all these LGBT militants wanted to hang him from a tree. We showed up and we counter-protested to support him. The next big thing was AB 2943. This was in 2018. This bill was as bad as you heard every conservative organ talk about. This is a bill that was so broad to ban reparative therapy for adults. It's already banned for minors, sadly. Hopefully we can get that overturned someday. But this would mean that even if you're an adult and you have same-sex issues, or you are a male and think you should be a female and you're struggling with that, this bill would have made that a crime to seek help. Anybody offering that would have been hit with consumer fraud charges. But it was so broad, it would have banned the Bible, it would have banned sermons, it would have banned any teachings, writings, reportings, recordings dealing with natural marriage, life, and family. Now, slowly but surely, they chipped away at the bill to change some of the broadest and worst aspects of it. But our organization, we connected with churches across the state. I was talking to people in El Centro as well as people in the Bay Area. Evan Lowe, he was the author of the bill. Outspoken, vocal, perverse, LGBT militant. We even talked to churches in his district. We were targeting the state assembly towards the last week of the legislative session, and at the last minute, he pulled the bill. Boom, big victory. So this is just a redo, just a summary of all that. We even had conference calls with his office. He obviously didn't know who he was messing with initially. We talked with the law firms, and they said, and they gave it to us in writing. He says, we're going to sue the state if they do this. And I shoved it in the speaker's face. What's his name? Anthony Rendon, the Speaker of the State Assembly. I was talking to his staffers and said, you're going to lose this fight. Because we're going to sue, or they're going to sue, and you will lose. Because there's already a pattern to undermine these unconstitutional bans. So, what I'm really proud of is, we stopped it there, but where Mass Resistance steps in and we're different is we did not stop going after Evan Lowe. We went to his town halls. We went to his coffees. He had a Christmas event at his office. I was there. Yes. Some of our other activists were there. We surprised him. I even had a little book that says, it's okay to be a boy or a girl, and I put it in his little Christmas box. So they were not one of his his chief of staff, they tried to call the police on us a month ago, and then we showed up again, and so they finally said, okay, so what is it? And we said, you don't bring up the bill again. You're not bringing this back, period. And so the next year, 2019, he didn't bring it back. 2020, he didn't bring it back. And here we are, 2021, and he still hasn't introduced it. So that to me is very important. For our organization, this is really important. You don't win a victory and then stop. You keep fighting. And that's very important, and that's what Mass Resistance is about. Next slide. Stopping Drag Queen Story Hour. Yes. We are in such a bad state culturally that we have to talk about this. I mean, there was a time when it was a crime for a man to wear women's clothes on the street, just to do that. Now, they can go in the libraries and indoctrinate the kids. They groom the kids. That's what one of the drag queens said in Lafayette, Louisiana. This is going to be the grooming of the next generation. And we know it's not just about accommodating a perversion, but being taken advantage by it without going into detail. So that's what we got there. So this was in Georgia. This was our, do I just click the button? That's fine? Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I know you got to eat. That's fine. So first time we did in Georgia, and just really quick about Georgia. Most people will be surprised. It's a red state. Yes, it is a red state. It's voter fraud. But Atlanta is like a gay mecca. It's like San Francisco of the South. Austin, Texas is too, by the way. So people think I'm going to leave California, that'll solve all my problems. No. Not exactly. Just have to put that out there. This was one of our biggest successes. This was the next year in 2019. Our Houston, Texas chapter with Tracy Shannon at the top, they did the research that the media didn't do and which the library refused to do, and discovered that 2 of the drag queens were sex offenders. I'm going to let Tracy Shannon do all the talking, though. She's our Texas director.
Yes.
Ron, the Houston Public Library isn't sugarcoating anything. They admit they messed up here and they've apologized. But the organization that brought this whole thing to our attention says they need a whole lot more than that. This is Albert Garza, a registered child sex offender, convicted in 2008 for molesting an 8-year-old boy. This is also him, Tatiana Malanilla, his drag queen alter ego. This is who's been reading the kids at Houston Public Library since last year.
Who exactly are the people who are using their stage names in the library because the public doesn't know who they are?
Tracy Shannon is with Mass Resistance, an organization dedicated to ending the drag queen storytime program in Houston, saying it sends a harmful and sexual message. But Storytime organizers say it promotes tolerance and diversity.
Shame on these individuals in this building behind me.
Mass Resistance claims it's been asking the city for months to disclose information about the drag queens. And when requests went unanswered, they did their own digging and made the shocking link.
If they had done their job in due diligence, if they had said, wait, maybe not a good idea to have a sex offender who, at 200 pounds and 5'11", assaulted an 8-year-old boy.
A statement from the Houston Public Library says, in part, we failed to complete a background check as required by our own guidelines. We deeply regret this oversight. No participant is ever alone with children.
We are here today upset and concerned.
But protesters want more than apologies. They want heads to roll.
Most parents would not allow that individual to sit in this library, sashay in, and be held up as a role model to our children.
The library also says that it is taking action, making sure that everybody involved in their programs.
This time's really short, so she's just Mad Mama Bear Tracy Shannon. She just kicks
Ron,
butt.
the Houston Public
like you wouldn't
Library
believe.
isn't.
So proud of her. And next slide, Tucker Carlson weighed in. So
we take it down to Texas and something called Drag Queen Story Time. It's a real thing. The Houston Public Library System is apologizing tonight after a mishap with their regularly scheduled drag queen story time.
What?
It's exactly what it sounds like. Drag queens men who dress up as parodies of women reading books to young children. How did that go wrong? Well, one of the drag queens employed by the Houston Library System turned out to be a sex offender. Not an alleged sex offender, a registered one. a man who sexually assaulted an 8-year-old boy. The library didn't know that because they hadn't even bothered to do a background check before putting him around children. Why bother? It's not like the point of this was to help children in the first place. The program will continue, of course, in Houston and many other places. But the much bigger question is...
Stop right there. Actually, he's wrong. We stopped it.
Yeah.
They shut it down.
Yeah.
Because we found a second one. So there isn't enough time to go into that. A second sex offender who had actually molested 4 children. 4. They didn't do their jobs. Oh, and I just want to say, we were there at the Torrance library. I talked to the Torrance Commission. They were arrogant, disrespectful, and I said, why don't we do something to prevent this from coming here? They didn't want to touch it. Because, God forbid, Pat Fury might be upset with them. It might make people uncomfortable. Go ahead to the next slide.
Why are we putting up with drag?
We're not. So there's the second one. 4. And when this was exposed, the media talked about it, then they pulled it away because there was some argument about how, well, the record was sealed because he was a minor. I don't care. He was 16, and now he's a creepy guy who thinks he's a girl. I don't want him around any kids. Go ahead with the next slide. Here is it. Yep, we had a victory. So we shut it down, and we've shut down other ones. Go to the next slide. We, let's see, go back really quickly. So, no, go back. There we go. Yeah, so we've also shut it down in Ohio. We protested it vigorously in Chula Vista. They didn't bring it back. They still haven't brought it back. We forced Chula Vista to spend $45,000 to have to secure the premises when we protested the library. So if you can't shut it down, you make it hurt financially so they don't bring it back. So that's usually very effective too. So we've actually fought this. We speak boldly about it. Homosexuality is a perversion. Why are you teaching it to kids? Transgenderism is a perversion. Why are you teaching it to kids? A lot of people want to play well, you can do your drag queen thing somewhere else. No, how about we shouldn't have drag queens at all? Drag queens are not for kids. Drag queens aren't for adults. I'm not afraid to say that too. Maybe that doesn't make me as libertarian as some people would like. I really don't care at this point. Next slide. Okay, so stopping bans on reparative therapy. 2019 was a busy year. So there were 4 different states we were working in. This was some of our activists in Colorado. Colorado, we didn't have the success we wanted, but in other states we did. In Minnesota, Arizona, Nebraska. I always forget that 4th state because so much is. Massachusetts, we were successful that year. Then they snuck it in. They broke the legislative rules in 2020 because they have to break the rules much of the time to pass this bill, even in blue states like Massachusetts. Next slide. So this is in 2021, kind of fast forwarding a little bit. Down in California, I've talked about how we got rid of the sex ed curriculum, but even this year, I found out about this just in a few days before, but this is something that MassResistance is really invested in. We want to train and prepare people to not just fight an issue, but stay intact to keep fighting issues. This is how the left thinks. They don't just focus on a cause. They want to form a community, and that the community stays in the game and keeps fighting. And that's what we did in Downey. The city council wanted to have an LGBT picnic on the city's dime. $80,000 to celebrate sexual perversion. I've been to Downey, great city. The streets look really bad. They're not like the streets here. Thank you, Aurelio and City Council, for paving the streets here, helping get those paved here. They're really bad in Downey. But they wanted to have an LGBT picnic. So we had about 20 people calling in, emailing. We overwhelmed the LGBT activists, and they backed off. Now, of course, they're going to try to save face. 2 of them are openly gay, her and this guy. And this guy was really unhappy. He says, "What, are you homophobic?" I'm like, "No, you are. The city council is, because you guys are bending over this agenda." But we shut it down. We stopped it. Boom. Next slide. Okay, this year also, Minnesota. I talked about 2 years ago, they stopped the reparative therapy ban. They didn't bring it back the last year or this year. They tried to pass comprehensive sex ed in Minnesota. Our team got involved and helped to stop it. This is good. So that was another victory. Next slide. Montana. Montana is a deep red state. They have a Republican supermajority, and they have a Republican governor for the first time in 16 years. Surprise, surprise. We could not pass the bill to ban sex mutilation surgeries on minors. This is shocking. Republicans killed the bill. Republicans.
They're afraid.
Worse, they're bought by Big Pharma. That's a lot of it. This is shocking. At the Chamber of Commerce in Montana is the medical industry. They're like this, very incestuous. There's a lot of money in mutilating kids. We're having this problem in Texas too. So for everybody who thinks Texas is this big red mecca, got some bad news for you. They might not even get constitutional carry across the ground because of the stupid labor unions. But we did, working with the legislature, going after key legislators, we were able to get the bill across that keeps the boys out of girls' sports. That faced some heavy winds as well, again, because NCAA, big money. But we were successful in Montana notwithstanding. So next one. Okay, I'm proud of this on an individual level because I have been defamed by this hate group in Alabama called the Southern Poverty Law Center. When they're not defaming Muslims, Jews, and immigrants, they've tried to shut down charter schools that serve black students. And you can imagine, I mean, it's so petty, people don't have anything else on me, so they say, well, the Southern Poverty Law Center says. This is the same hate group where their president and CEO were fired for sexual misconduct. They have $300 million in the Cayman Islands. I'm not sure how you fight civil rights, hoarding money from gullible liberals and spending it on yourself. Anyway, I'm really proud of this, and I wanted to document it for you. So next slide. So this was in 2017. Nick Green, who, by the way, has been laid off. I don't buy this garbage that he's retiring. I think he got laid off, just like Larry Altman did. So as you can imagine, he quotes the hate group. So this is in 2017. Next slide. This was in 2019 when Cheryl and others were, some of you here were protesting the drag queens in El Segundo, shockingly enough. Here we are, pro-family, mass resistance. I talked to the reporter and I gave them all the goods. And they said, well, Southern Poverty Law Center. Well, let me tell you about them. Everything I shared with you, I shared with him. They don't mention them, but we're not done yet. Next slide. So this was in 2021, or 2020, when we were protesting Black Lives Matter in El Segundo. Organization with socially conservative activism group. Different reporter, but it's the same newspaper. The same news group, SoCal News Group. They don't reference the hate group anymore because we showed them as a total fraud. So we fight back and we win. I'm just really proud of that. And this is really important too because a lot of people don't want to speak out against the homosexual or transgender agenda because you're a hater, you're a homophobe, you're a transphobe, you're a whatever phobe. But I'm at a point now, especially with massive socialism coming down on us, with all this tyranny, I don't want to hear people giving me the excuse anymore. Well, someone's going to say something mean about me on Facebook. You want to be in a concentration camp instead?
Exactly.
You know, and I've told you about the father in British Columbia. He went to jail. He didn't care. He says, I know I'm going to go to jail. I don't care. I'm going to protect my daughter. And we're also helping another father in Texas, again, red state, Jeff Younger, wants to protect his son James from being mutilated by his creepy ex-wife. And I'm telling you, there was the first bill in Texas, HB 1399, we tried to pass. It died on the floor in Texas, okay? Not California. I want you to think about that. So the answer isn't just to run away. So again, how did we beat back the hate group from Alabama? So we provided evidence of their defamation. And some reporters in the past, if they've referenced that hate group, I usually call them and I scream at them. I said, why are you referencing a hate group? They do this, 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 and this. Many times they'll adjust what they've written. Sometimes they won't remove the label. National Public Radio in Michigan, they did remove it entirely. So we've had some considerable victories there. I would just have to say, James O'Keefe, he has a wall of shame. Well, we've got him beat. I've been doing it for years. I've called newspapers and they've been forced to make retractions. We've done it many times as well. So there's that. Oftentimes, if we're interviewed by them, we expect you to be a real journalist. You don't mention hate groups like the SPLC that have no credibility. 9 times out of 10, they accommodate our request. Next. All right, now it's time for the get real moment. This is where I know there's going to be some people who walk out of this room talking smack about me. That's okay. That happened to me in Woodland Hills, 1 or 2 complaints. I'm sorry, conservatives, but we need to take a stand.
Right.
LGBT is wrong.
You're right.
These are destructive behaviors. They're harmful. They're based on lies. And you know what? That's part of the reason the charter was revoked for the Beach Cities Republicans. I can tell you that, Aurelio. That's why. Because I spoke out against this. That's why. Next. They violate natural law. The laws of nature and nature's God. These are constitutional principles. And it's also in the Declaration of Independence. Next slide. So I'm not going to read the whole thing just for the sake of time, but our whole framework of government is based on natural law. Okay? Our rights don't come from the government, they come from God. And these are behaviors that are unnatural. A man dressing up as a woman, pretending to be a woman. I'm sorry, that's not natural. That's not acceptable. Can we go back a few slides? Thank you for bearing with me. Whoops. Oh, I've kind of crossed the line here, didn't I?
No.
This was a, no, back to Trump. I did, okay, I've gone there. I was very critical of this. This is not okay. Donald Trump's a great guy. He is our president. We all understand that. I don't accept this. I'm sorry, he's wrong. But when he was in office, he did pretty good on this issue. Okay, so, but now I'm gonna get harsh on this. Let's go back a few.
Go back?
Go forward, excuse me. Skip that one, go ahead. Here we go. So we have to speak the truth here. This whole agenda is based on lies, okay? I don't know of any other Republican, even up in Siskiyou County, maybe Placer County, that has the courage to talk about this. I'm sorry, but no one is born that way. There is science. I'm not thumping a Bible here. I'm just giving science. And we've all compiled it in this book. Mass Resistance was the victim of cancel culture before it became a thing. Amazon took our book off. We're selling it for 3 years when they shut us down. It is back for sale. It is back. Peter, those envelopes, I want you to pass them out, please. Children don't discover they're gay because they're not born that way. They never were born that way. So let's just cut the crap here. We have to start having some courage. And I don't know why more conservatives don't want to, because they're afraid of the homophobe, the transphobe part. I'm not. The behaviors are harmful, unnatural. I'm not going to go into details. There are other slides where I do. This is part of the training we do with other activists who come on board to help mass resistance stuff. There's the health hazards of homosexuality. We've done the research. You can go to nature.com, August 29th, 2019. They looked at 500,000 individual subjects, and they looked at their genetic makeup. People ended up in homosexual conduct, heterosexual, whatever. There's no genetic determination for homosexuality. None. It's just not there. I kind of like science. I hope you do too. Next slide. This to me is part of the reason why conservatives have really struggled with this issue. And it's not necessarily our fault. It's a matter of now more research is available. Here we have two among many activists. Mr. Chris Doyle, former homosexual, married, has kids. He even runs a reparative therapy practice. Christopher Yuan, this guy has an incredible story. From a far country, he was neglected as a kid, stumbled into pornography at 9 years old. Wow. Ended up in homosexual relationships of all kinds. He was a drug dealer all over the eastern United States. He had more money. He even dropped out of dental school, got busted, went to prison, got saved, and now he's an evangelist. Wow. Not born that way. Next. There's more. And this is the thing too. It's not fair for me to beat up on anybody in this room. Why aren't you fighting harder? You're not given the resources. Well, I believe marriage is for one man and one woman. Okay, that's a belief. But this is where mass resistance is also stepping in. We're providing the resources now to argue this issue. Even the communists, when they were recruited by Communist Party activists, they trained them in the mechanics of Marxism, in the ideology of Marxism, so that they become strong activists. Conservatives need to do the same thing in all issues, especially when it comes to this LGBT stuff. Here's more proof. David Pickup, also a reparative therapist, molested at 5 years old. And he stumbled into homosexuality because of that. He's out of it. He now counsels others, adults, young, not born that way. Talked about the change movement. They're very active. Former transgender as well. I was interviewed by one last week, in fact. Floyd Godfrey's a reparative therapist. I'm going to get her. Joyce, I can't remember, Bonnier or Conyer, oh gosh. She's a good friend, I can't remember her name right now. But the point is, I'm giving you proof. No, people are not born that way. There are people who get out of it. Their stories aren't told. I wonder why. Twitter suppresses them. Facebook says they would ban any discussions of reparative therapy too. That's why. But I think part of the reason is, I've talked to well-meaning conservatives and they go, they tell me they felt that way when they were younger. I'm not doubting it. I'm not saying that they chose it, but we have to speak the truth here. I mean, even looking at the biology of it, there's no way somebody can be born that way because there has to be a reproduction. There has to be genes passed on. So, okay, next slide. And so we have to argue from this perspective. Notice I'm not arguing from biblical perspectives or tradition. I mean, I can remember John McCain. When he was on Ellen, and there was Ellen, and she says, I want to be able to marry the girl I love. And John McCain completely failed and says, well, I just think that marriage is for one man and one woman. That doesn't cut it, does it? It's not good enough. We have to have some hard evidence here. We have to have the courage to speak the truth about the whole agenda. I've given you science. I've given you research that backs up this view. And honestly, we have to get to a point where you have these LGBT militants, you have to say, oh, so you believe people are born gay? Do you think the world is flat too? Or do you think that the Earth is the center of our planetary system too? Because you obviously don't believe in science. We have to put them on defense because they can't prove it. They can't. We have to argue from science and facts. And this has been a big failure of the conservative movement. They want to talk about tradition or religion. Or they've caved and they said, well, you can have your homosexuality, but let me have my Christianity. And we're finding out that that's not going to work.
No, not now.
It's not working now.
No.
From the cake bakers to the photographers to the fathers and mothers. Their parental rights get trampled on and our religious liberties get pushed aside. You have to stand for truth. Next. Thank you so much. Okay, Republican Party, we need to talk. Okay, party was founded on 2 platforms in 1854. And Miss Ashley Gilliam does an excellent job talking about how the party was founded to fight slavery. But there's something else I didn't know about until 2008, 2009, Rick Santorum pointed out. It was also to fight polygamy. The twin relics of barbarism. The Republican Party has been a pro-family party from day one, or it's supposed to be. The issue had to do with Utah. Polygamy was all over. And so that, there was the Civil War clearly fighting the slavery issue, but polygamy was also an issue at the time. Destruction of the family was an issue at the time. And so the party said, we need to stop this, death of polygamy. We want women respected, not treated like chattel. And by extension, you have the destruction of the family that leads to homosexuality, transgenderism as well. Next. Okay. So now we're getting really, I'm glad he's gone. Yes, I'm glad that we're going to get rid of him, hopefully. Okay, this guy signed a bill. Let's keep in mind, there's a whole host of reasons to recall this creed. Sorry. Not, everything from the streets to the masks to the shutting down businesses to being a corporate fraud to being a communistic puppet. He also signed off on a bill that allows adults to molest children if the age range is 10 years at most, and they can avoid the sex offender registry. And that bill, it was Senate Bill 145, that bill was advertised as a pro-LGBT bill. Scott Wiener, the guy who wants to put houses on everybody's lots, he pushed that bill too. Because the idea is, nobody is questioning this. Nobody is standing up to this. Think about this, folks. You have homosexual activists who are like, I'm 19 and I have a 15-year-old boyfriend. Right away, that's a problem. That's not okay. It's called pedophilia.
Yes.
But if it's LGBT, oh no, it's okay because they're born that way and, well, they're different. So we shouldn't be judgmental. That's homophobic. Excuse me? No, this is not okay.
Not okay.
And he signed off on it. So I'm glad we have a chance to get rid of him. Next. Okay, but we have to make sure that as a Republican Party, because I'm speaking to a Republican audience, and if you're not a Republican, you should become one. You don't want to be a Democrat. As I said at its founding, we're a pro-family party. We were founded that way. Okay, don't let someone take the history away. Hispanic, Black, Asian voters, even if they're voting Democrat, if you talk about marriage, if you talk about life, they are staunchly conservative. So why would any Republican leader want to abandon these values? It makes no sense. It's just foolish politically. I hope, Omar, if you don't mind, I talked to him when he was running for Congress a second time, and initially, I hope you don't mind I talk about this.
Good.
So he said, I'm okay with gay marriage now. We had that discussion. I don't know if you remember. I'm just not trying to put you on the spot. I appreciate, because he's an example of changed his mind. I said to Omar, you want to run against Maxine Waters, most black voters don't support gay marriage, even if they're voting Democrat. And he changed his mind. So,
Well, because I read my mind, because I actually read the Bible, so.
well, there you go. That's even more important. Don't change your mind because of me. Change your mind because of the truth. I couldn't agree more. And I know this, and some people will say, well, my friend is gay. Okay, well, I have friends who smoke. Doesn't mean we should have smoking preferences, too. Come on. It's not really love to accommodate this. We have to have some truth here. So just thinking long term. Next. Republicans, we need to talk.
Open Open borders.
Okay. How about open biology? Okay.
Oh my goodness.
No, just no. No, I'm sorry. I'm not voting for this. And honestly, there should be an uproar from every registered Republican in the state. You're not forcing this on me. I don't think so. I'm not voting for a deluded man who thinks he's a woman.
Who's trying to force it?
I'm sorry?
Who is trying to force it?
What do you mean?
Is there
Fox
some,
News.
you implied there's some campaign to push this out?
There sure is. He announced. And he's got Brad Parscale, the guy who was running Trump's campaign. This is really sickening, folks, because this is like a California Republican Party problem. Consultants want to get in and make money, and they don't care if we win or lose elections or not.
Yeah.
This is a big part of it. But we need to put our foot down now. I'm sorry. I'm not voting for a confused
Neither do
Okay,
I.
now I'm going to be pushing your boundaries a little bit, because I know I'm going to get some crap from some of you. Next. Okay, well, we're actually still on the same page. I'm a little ahead here. No degenerate. And this is about, you know what, if Bruce here was for building the wall and deporting every illegal, if he was staunchly pro-life, if he was going to issue constitutional carry, I would still say no. No. I'm not voting for this guy, because it's all about normalizing his madness.
Yep.
And we've got to say no. I'm sorry. No. This should, do not pass go, do not collect $200. We're not voting for Bruce. Not supporting Bruce. Okay. And it's stupid. I mean, Republicans, especially in this state, because this is where the rot seems to start, they want to pander to identity politics. Let's win some of that LGBT vote. I mean, politically, is that really going to get us across the finish line?
No.
But putting aside that, how about some principles here? Democrats have been pushing single payer for decades, even if it's madness. They stick to their principles. Why don't we? What a concept. Okay, now this is where I know I'm going to get some crap from people. Sorry, folks. No. I'm saying no to Grinnell. No.
He's not running though.
Well, he's thinking about it, but maybe we've changed his mind. I hope. But no. No. And there's some conservatives, and I don't have any ill will towards them, whether in this room or anywhere else. And they said, I think I'm going to vote for him. Then my job is to make the case. And my job isn't to beat up on you. I got to make my case. No. Why? Yes, he's openly gay. Showcased his husband when sworn in as ambassador to Germany. I'm going to touch on this briefly. I know part of the conservative movement includes this like libertarian aspect that says, well, people should be able to do whatever they want. I don't care what consenting adults do in private. Well, right away, it isn't private. You have an appointed official who showcases his husband, and it doesn't stop there. This was on the McLaughlin group. I listened to his testimony. He gave an interview, Rick Grinnell. It was going to be his priority. Now, he's an American ambassador, and he says, I want to decriminalize homosexuality all over the world. I thought we were supposed to be America first. Why are we focusing on Zambia or Uganda or Singapore, where they still criminalize sodomy? They don't rush into people's bedrooms and arrest them, but it's a cultural statement that stops everything else. So, no, this is not a private matter. It's a public issue. Very public. Next. Oh, go back.
Sorry.
It's time to, we got to stand for truth here. It's one of my former campaign managers, this is the come to Jesus moment. Conservatives, we need to start speaking up.
Yes.
I'm not going to be quiet about this. And the rhinos, they can go become Democrats then, if they want to cave on this issue. I've had enough. I'm saying enough. CPAC, mass resistance. I told you, we're victims of cancel culture. The log cabin Republicans told the CPAC conference to kick us out in 2018. Brian Kamaker paid the fees, set up a table. We were ready to be at the CPAC conference in Maryland in 2018. And then the LGBT said, well, they're hateful. They're a hate group. And they kicked us out. I thought we were supposed to be about freedom, right? Lady Manga? Pardon me. What the hell is this? What the hell is this?
You're right.
Why are we normalizing drag queens? Oh, but he's a conservative drag queen. No, he's not. And again, I don't care if he has guns on both his holsters and he is so pro-life that he wants to abolish abortion. I don't care. He wants to normalize this madness.
Right.
No. And this is, again, we did a lot of stories on what happened in CPAC. CPAC sucks. I'm calling them out right now. We knew about this before these Groypers and Generation Z people were going after them. We knew they were a bunch of corporate sellouts. We knew it because we were taking a stand on this issue. Next. And it's happening here in California, folks. And I cannot tell you the kind of crap I've gotten here in California. This is the Escondido Republican Women Federated. I'm breaking the 11th commandment here, folks. I'm sorry, Ronald Reagan's dead. We need to start having some serious discussions here. This is a Republican Women's Federated in this state. You have a man, confused man, thinks he's a woman, has been showcased by a number of Republican leaders in this state. We are branching, we're broadening our approach, we're broadening our base, we're reaching out to confused men who think they're women. Really? And guess who's that in the middle? Congressman Darrell Issa is swearing in this new slate for the Republican Women Federated. I have a couple friends in Escondido who gave him hell the next day, so I'm happy about that. This is Gina. Now, and see here, live and let live, right? That's what we're told. He has said, Michelle is a good friend of mine, and we've gone after him. We've asked for an answer. Do you think that men should be in women's sports, etc.? He won't answer. Interestingly enough.
Wow.
And he also has said, and he's said in other posts, if you prevent me from using the bathroom of my choice, I have 3 law firms that are ready to sue. I'm sorry, libertarians, does this sound like a live and let live agenda to you? It's not. Sorry, I'm tattling on other Republicans in this state. And the Susan Blair, she has told different chapters, don't talk about it. There's nothing you can do about it. Keep quiet.
No.
I'm not keeping quiet.
No.
What do you think, ladies? Do you want this guy in your bathroom?
No.
No.
The Republican Women Federated was founded so that women could be able to run for office. Now you have a man taking their place? I mean, this is outrageous. Next. Okay. The good news is people are waking up. Cesar Hurtado, he is a young millennial and very libertarian initially, and he used to give me a lot of crap because of my staunch, social conservative pro-family views. This is a tweet that he issued. I want to read it in full. This was about the drag queen issue. This is actually pretty gross that libraries are doing this. 10 years ago, I was laughing at conservatives like me when they said gay marriage would lead to this. 10 years later, I'm thinking, holy crap, they were kind of right. The gay agenda is being pushed far too much. I would adjust it. It's being pushed, period. And we need to push back. Gosh, that's so homophobic, Arthur. You're a creep. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't think kids should be raped.
Yes.
I'm
No.
sorry, but adults who are in pain need help, not enabling. I'm sorry, but Ricky Rebel dancing YMCA, and that's supposed to make America great again? I don't think so. I'm not happy with that. I saw one guy, he's a great activist, outspoken anti-communist, but then he has a shirt that says fags for Trump. Really? Why are we degrading ourselves? This is not acceptable. Next one. I want to talk about this. This is where we get the most crap. And again, it's not your fault as conservatives or voters in general. Nobody is equipping you. Because this is the common retort. I don't care what consenting adults do in private. Because it's like, and this is the issue I've had with parental groups and other groups. They don't want to work with MassResistance. They just want to, don't teach it to the kids. We don't have a problem with if you're gay, but just don't teach it to the kids. You can be a man wearing a dress, but just don't teach it to the kids. That's not going to work. Because if there's nothing wrong with it, then why isn't it wrong to teach it to the kids? See, that doesn't work. You have to speak the truth. No, it's wrong, period. So here's the retort. I don't care what consenting adults do in private. I just care what they do in public and what policies they want to promote. So how do you respond to that? Private behavior has public consequences. I shared this with a head of a Republican group in Santa Clarita. She laughed at me. That's okay, I didn't get upset. Nobody's made the case yet. We've kind of embraced too much libertarianism. I was one of them. You'll find stuff I wrote. I said, let's get the government out of marriage, live and let live. I was wrong. The people in New England caught me up to speed because they had witnessed it. There are Republican assemblies in New England, and they are conservative. They're not rhinos. They just don't do a lot. Private behavior has public consequences. Every person in this room, you are the offspring of a private relationship. And you've all had a public consequence, for good. But again, private behavior is public consequences. So that's a garbage argument right there. We have the rise of venereal disease, the destruction of the family, the loss of human capital. Because when people are sick, they're not working, right? People have syphilis, they're dying, they're not working, right? Somebody's cutting off all their healthy parts. They're out of commission for a year if they're lucky. High suicide rates have not changed. We have it all researched. This agenda is a massive affront to individual liberties. And we have the broken children, the broken men, and the broken civilization that follows. A child born with two moms is missing a lot of emotional development right away. There's more research that's finally coming out about that. Next. This to me is a fundamental principle that I learned from Peter LaBarbera, who got it from Paul Johnson. Excellent conservative historian. He received the Medal of Honor from George W. Bush. I'm going to read the quote in full, and I want to expand on that. So, how some kids, I guess Paul Johnson is a boomer, I guess they would say. He was liberal, a liberal activist. He thought it was wrong to criminalize homosexuality. It's wrong to criminalize transgenderism. But this is what he found out from all that activism. Thus we began by attempting to right what we felt was an ancient injustice. And we ended up with a monster in our midst, powerful and clamoring, flexing its muscles, threatening, vengeful, and vindictive towards anyone who challenges its outrageous claims, and bent on making fundamental, and to most of us horrifying, changes to civilized patterns of sexual behavior. Well, I'm touching a really third rail here. So this was the United Kingdom. He's a British author. They decriminate. So he fought in 1968. It's wrong to punish homosexuals for their private behaviors. That's wrong. That was the idea, and I think many conservatives kind of feel that way now. I mean, why? This is private behavior. Why should I care? This is why. Because it goes from being a sanctioned behavior, so it's okay to do it? Well, if there's nothing wrong with my sexual predilections, then you should respect it just as much as the natural one. Okay, well, I should be able to get married. I should be able to adopt kids. You can't discriminate against me because I was born this way. It created a monster. So our ancestors were very forward-thinking, incidentally enough. You criminalize the conduct not because you want to lock everybody up, but to forestall everything else, including a massive, monstrous political lobby. And is it not monstrous? Is it not political? I mean, Republicans cave to it. Democrats have given into it. Every time they scream and yell and say, we want our picnics, we want our non-discrimination ordinances, we want you to I experienced this when I was at Henry Waxman's town hall in Hermosa Beach. A gay activist was there, and I said, tolerance. We want tolerance. That's usually our response. Can't we just have tolerance? You live your life and let me live my life. But the whole agenda and the militancy that's been pushing this from 1968, no, they don't want tolerance. They want acceptance. Mm-hmm. And this activist, he said it to me with no shame or any reservation. He said, no, you have to accept me. I will not accept tolerance. Well, I got another word to describe that mindset. It's called tyranny. That's what it is, folks. And it all started with, well, we shouldn't criminalize it. Wow, I know this is a really touchy subject. Wow, so what are we saying? Okay, I'll talk about solutions perhaps if we have time, but right now it's, wake up, Republicans. Wake up, conservatives. I don't want to hear about how you're afraid of the homophobe card. You know what? I have a reason to feel homophobic, if I may be so bold, at this point. I think it's changed. When you're forcing this in a classroom and calling it sex ed, when you are locking up a baker or a photographer because they don't want to accommodate your perverse setup, when you're locking up a father who wants to protect his daughter, I'm sorry, no. You need to go back in the closet. You need to put some pants on if you're a man, put a dress on if you're a woman. And if you have those, and again, look, private behaviors, look, if it was private, then why would they need to get married? Think about that, folks. This was never about consenting adults in private. So What do we need to do to start winning? This is me talking about general issues. Okay. Go ahead, next. So I wanted to speak to that. Evan Chase, president of the Beach Cities Republicans, when I was there, learned so much from him. We need to win the culture and not just win an election. Gosh, maybe we recall the governor, but we get a kind of crappy Republican. But, you know, I'll vote for John Cox before I vote for a guy in a dress or for a gay guy. Sorry, but the commercials are really dumb, but, or maybe we don't recall the governor. Ouch. But we need to win the culture.
That's a pretty cool bear.
Yeah, I know. Next. We need to change priorities. Conservatives care about money, liberals care about power. This was 20 years ago, the National News wrote about this. Conservatives, we need to think about getting levers of power. Look what Aurelio has done. You know, and notice how they go after him the same way they go after our good friend Marjorie Greene. She's a friend of mine. And she was with MassResistance before she went to Congress. Yes.
She was
want to
in
point that out.
Jackson Water's office too.
And she went after the crazy black lady. Conservatives need to focus on power, not just money. And we have to stop being afraid of government. This libertarian idea of let's just shrink the state, no. The government exists for a reason. Let's take over and let's enforce our power. Like canceling critical theory or getting bad sex ed, critical race theory, getting that out of the classroom. That's the use of power. Yes, next. Okay. This is like a big gripe that Brian has shared with me so many times. Conservatives love conferences. We love 15 speakers. We want to hear lots of great stuff. Okay, we hold meetings, we have conferences, websites, books, raise money. Yes, I'm raising money too, but we're actually doing stuff. Those things are ways to donate, okay? But we're actually doing stuff, so it's different. Hold meetings, host conferences, publish articles. Does Black Lives Matter do this? Black Lives Matter doesn't say, let's have a conference in Georgia and talk about how white people suck. No, what they do is that they go after the government and they go after the officials and they get what they want. Why aren't we doing that? Next. We need to organize. Sorry, labor unions. Hey, I don't like what they're doing at the public sector level, and I think it's always better to be on your own, and I'm a right to work guy, but they organize. And you know what? We can do the same. MassResistance, we do that. We recruit people, we give new recruits leadership roles. Cheryl's one of them. She's doing a lot of great stuff for us. Raphael's been part of the fight, Claude's been part of the fight. I assign specific tasks. We target boards, we target elected officials. That's what meetings really should be about. Black Lives Matter just doesn't have a great speaker. They are right away thinking about what are the issues we need to fight? Let's do it. They're bitching and moaning at the Torrance City Council instead of just having a great speaker. We need to demand key outcomes from elected officials, and we want to grow a movement. We have to think that way. It's uncomfortable, it's foreign, but we got to do it.
Yes.
If we want to start winning again. That's why Donald Trump was scary, because he understood this. He understood the need to get power and to use it. That's why they hate him.
Yeah, that's
He's different.
true.
He wasn't just a businessman. That's why they hate Marjorie Greene. It's about power. That's why they hate me. That's why they love smearing me with they can't scare me. I'm not afraid to go after elected officials. I'm not the only one. I'm just saying. That's why they go after us. They love these Republicans that are corporate, raise money, have their conferences, say some nasty things about Democrats, but don't do anything. Next. This is how we were able to achieve in Downey getting rid of that sex ed curriculum. It took 6 months. I was just telling John, who's a school board member. Thank you for being here. It took 6 months. It takes time. We gotta change the intellectual culture, which I've just done, giving you some facts on how to fight this agenda. We've got to start pushing for any victory we can, and it takes time. I was there at the school board in Downey. I was able to take photos of the curriculum. I was able to send it to the public, but we had to go door to door. We had to get the parents activated. We didn't have conferences. We didn't have talks about how the sex ed was bad. We went out and told the parents that it was bad and told them what to do about it and helped them to do something about it. Next. So this is some of the organizing we did. Sandy Padilla, she was our leader there in Downey. Next. Here's the flyer we sent out. We had pictures of what it was in. This is what's in the sex ed curriculum. And every parent was on our side. And it's mostly a Democrat city in Downey. Mostly Hispanic too. Again, Republicans, you want to broaden your base. It's not appealing to sexual perversion. How about appealing to people in their natural state? What an idea. Next. These are some of the books I've read on about organizing. Not a fun subject. It's not ideological, intellectual. It's practical. Yes, I read Rules for Radicals. Yeah, I did. I dirtied myself. I did. This is a great book too. Former communist, became a Christian, and he talked about how the communists were able to train people and make them equipped, effective activists, how a minority group was able to have such an influence in the world. Communism, look what it's doing to our country. Key points. This is my goal coming out of this meeting. Getting people to see themselves in a grand fight, give them a job, put them to work, and you inspire citizens not just to be active for a cause, but to be part of a larger movement, to build that family. Okay, that to me is really key. And that's how you get an activist army. Next. Mass resistance, we took on Black Lives Matter. We're not gonna have time for the video. Go ahead and skip that. So I am practicing what I preach. LA County residents. Some of you are already getting our emails. My next step is to get you active. What we're doing in LA County right now. Go ahead and hit the next one.
Sorry.
Okay, we're now focusing on exposing the sex ed curriculum in other schools in this county. We want to stop AB 1084. That's a bill that would require these gender neutral sections in department stores. This is more about normalizing this madness to children because it's kids' clothes, toys, and childcare products. And they want to make them gender neutral so that the kids are already poisoned. Everywhere they go, this stuff is forced in their face. And we're going after the LA County Board of Supervisors. We want to make sure that the drag queen program does not come back because now everything's opening up again. And the first thing you know, the drag queens are going to rush back into those libraries. So we're working on stuff. I am now talking to every one of you here. I'm practicing what I preach. I need your help. I need you to get involved in this. We give you the tips, tools to start fighting this. Next. And you can learn more about us. Our website, MassResistance.org. I'm giving you contact information directly. This is stuff I make public. Some of you have my private number. Arthur at MassResistance.org. There's my work cell, 781-474-3005.
You have 5 minutes.
Boom. Next. Was that it?
That's it?
Okay.
Question?
I have a lot to say. I really want to wake up conservatives, especially with the Trump movement. I love MAGA. That's great, but I'm not on board with gay MAGA. I'm sorry. Enough's enough. No. We need to put our foot down. No. I'm sorry. You have natural rights, but you don't have a natural right to abuse your body with the same sex. You have a natural right, but not to pretend to be a woman or pretend to be a man. This is wrong. We've got to put a stop to it.
Yeah, I've been kicked out of events for speaking because I
There you go.
against that.
All right, so I love that there's time. I love that everybody's keeping things in time. Are there any questions? Yes.
Did you see my email? A little while ago, I saw a list of the 7 phases of indoctrinating our children with the race tolerance.
Yeah.
7 phases for the 7 grades. Did you see my email?
I saw your email. I didn't have a chance to respond to it.
And so I've been trying to find
Okay,
that.
but do you have a
because
question? Because
Google-
my time's really short. Do you have a question?
Google will not let you find that.
Interesting. Okay. Do you have a question? Because I want to give everybody a chance to ask a question. No offense, but
Well, my question is, has anybody else seen that?
I have not. So, I mean, that's pretty shocking. But I mean, the steps of implementing communism, I wouldn't be surprised. Yes.
One thing for the benefit of the group anymore. A retired computer teacher from Inglewood Unified, where I taught at Morningside. What a lot of people don't realize is that the core classes that we all took for, when we were younger, for example, home economics, wood shop, metal shop, drafting, things that the kids could do with their hands to get them going. It's all been basically tossed away, and they're replacing it with this curriculum stuff. And of course, I spoke out against it. What did I do? Well, quite frankly, reverse discrimination is alive and well. That's all I'm going to leave it. Bottom line, you got to be positive, and that's all we can do. Just to be positive and
Okay, I'm going to interrupt. No, that's not all you have to do. I'm telling you some things you can start doing. Okay, we start going after the school boards. We start confronting this stuff. No, we don't just sit back. Okay, there is something you can do. I wish we had been around to help you, by the way. We've been helping teachers. They come to us and they give us all the dirt because they're afraid to lose their jobs. So we help them out. We provide an outlet for that.
Agree with the school board idea. Agree
Thank
with
you.
it.
All right. I'm staying within my time. Yes. But are there any other questions? Yes.
I agree with everything that you're saying for making this stand. As a Christian, we have been so inclusive.
I'm sorry, say it again?
As a Christian, we have been so inclusive, but then they're gonna go to hell, you know? So I agree with you. But I wanted to ask you, I don't really know you, I just met you through Facebook a few days ago. What made you so strong in your fight?
To fight this?
Yes.
2004, a pastor in Sweden gets arrested for preaching. Right away, my alarms went off. When I see churches, charities, and small businesses getting bullied, that bothers me big time. I mean, and the other thing is that, I mean, it's like, am I taking crazy pills here? I mean, why are people accommodating this? I mean, it's just nuts. It's just, there's a natural, this is wrong. And to see people being bullied and shamed for this really bothers me. And seeing where this is leading and where it's already gone, this is a real problem. And I'm not afraid to speak out about it. And I've been canceled myself for speaking out on this issue. I told you, the Beach Cities Republicans, our charter was revoked in part because I spoke out on this. Because the rhinos in this county want to accommodate consultants rather than win elections. We've got about a minute.
Do you want to make a comment about Pamela Davidson, the UCLA prof?
No, not right now, I don't.
Well, I think it ratchets up everything a little.
I just don't have the time right now, sorry.
Got it.
I want to stress this again with the little time that I have. Conservatives, we need to say no. We need to say no, we're not gonna, we need to not, conserving is not just about conserving what we have. We need to conserve our Judeo-Christian framework and what our party's principles were founded on. So we're not conserving, we have to restore. That's where we are right now. And I'm making the case now, and I'll be doing it everywhere, whether they shut me down or not. We need to stand up to this LGBT agenda and its lies. I don't care if you have gay friends, relatives, or otherwise. If you really care about them, you love the person, but you won't love the behavior, and you certainly won't love this political militancy that's forcing it on us, or you pay a price.
Yes.
Okay, I did it. Thank you.
Good.